So what I'd like to do now is quickly move on to the analyst view and understand what's actually happening across the rest of the world. So I'd like to now invite Jimit Arora, who's partner for enterprise transformation at Everest Group, to share Everest's views. So over to you, Jimit.
Kerry, great to hear from you and Debbie about, all of the possible solutions that we can be looking at from this crisis. And I think what I wanted to do was just provide some framing in terms of what we are seeing, why we are seeing. And it is important that we are spending time today talking about some of the solutions that are going to come in, right? But I do believe that there is a story of hope that as an industry, we need to start with. And in a lot of ways, what we need to recognize is that we are at the start of a mega cycle of growth in services across technology and business process services. If you kind of just look at some of the data here, rolling back, and we've been tracking the industry for the last several years. This is the blue chart up top. The light blue one is the business process services market. The darkish blue one is the technology services market, right? And obviously, technology services tends to be more discretionary. Business process services tends to be more resilient. But we did see a pretty significant drop-off during COVID. Part of what's causing and fueling the talent situation right now is that there is significant more demand, significant more growth than in the quarters and years, leading up to the COVID pandemic, right? So in some ways, this is a story of opportunity. We just need to recognize with this story of opportunity, we absolutely need to deliver to make sure we get benefits as an industry, which lifts all boats in a rising tide, right? So we're at the start of a mega cycle. What's really causing this, what I'd consider panic situation where people are looking for technologists across the board. Kerry, some of the stats you mentioned about, 100,000 open tech jobs that are causing billions in the UK GDP. What's really spurring that is that most organizations are viewing technology as an enabler of growth. And we call this the systems of growth thinking, which is really driving this surge in technology demand and creating these global talent wars, right? Debbie, I know you mentioned something that we'd called out as we have modeled this demand globally and supply, especially in technology. We believe there's going to be a structural imbalance, right? Which current practices alone will not be able to fulfill, at least for the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm really encouraged to hear about all of the alternate sources of talent that we are speaking about, including impact sourcing, bringing people from underprivileged, underskilled populations and driving a lot more inclusivity in the talent landscape. We think that's going to be important. In terms of where we are seeing the most impact, digital engineering, cloud, cyber, analytics, AI, and then aspects related to customer experience and customer support are the places where we are seeing the most hiring challenges right now. As you look at some of these areas, automation, which Debbie, I think was number 2 on your list, we believe is going to be a key factor. And as a result, one of the realities that we see companies preparing themselves for is that time to hire, time to fill roles is becoming 2 to 3 times the previous norm, right? So if it took a month to onboard someone, now it's taking 2 to 3 months. If it took 2 months to onboard someone, now it's taking, 4 to 6 months. And this is the reality. So yes, there are challenges, but let's not lose sight of the fact that we've got a pretty significant growth opportunity ahead of us as a sector that we need to make sure we're all participating in equally. In terms of where we are seeing the biggest challenges, and I think Kerry, Debbie, when you all started off describing what's really going on in North America, in UK, no surprise that these source geographies in some ways are witnessing the most challenges, right? We've done this key issues study earlier in the year, and then North America followed by Western Europe were the two largest geographies where we were seeing challenges from a access to talent standpoint. But again, as we've established before, this is a fairly global phenomena, right? It's referred to as, you know, the second pandemic that we're seeing, because this situation is not isolated to a single geography. India, which is one of the largest services geographies, is cited as the top 3 regions in some ways. But again, as you look down the stack, we have companies facing challenges, not just in Central Eastern Europe, other parts of APAC, but also Middle East and Africa and Latin America, which are seeing a lot of activity. So truly, we wouldn't want to single any geography out and say, hey, this is happening just in one place. We see this as a fairly global phenomena. And why that is happening, I think we touched upon some of this. Government subsidies had a role to play. Let's not ignore the fact that we lost a portion of the population. You know, there's all of this debate about what's reported, what's underreported because of the losses due to COVID. Immigration policies had a role to play, especially in North America, Western Europe. We've shared in the past how population pyramids are changing, and that creates implications. And then also changing culture views, right? And how people think about their interactions with the workplace are an important dimension of thinking through this. So finally, you know, one of the things we said we wanted to touch upon was a talent heat map. And what we wanted to share here was, in a nutshell, where are some of our clients going? And this is based on, you know, about 200 plus interactions. So we've got a number of members who are asking us questions about locations-oriented decisions on an ongoing basis. We do a number of projects for them. So what we really wanted to represent was, in a easy to consume manner, what are the geographies that are seeing increased interest? Those are the ones in green. And again, you'll see Canada, Mexico, especially for the US, Jamaica, Costa Rica, Colombia in the Americas, seeing a lot more active interest from the Americas. Within the Europe market, you know, we're seeing Spain, Portugal be really interesting to folks, especially as you think about the unfortunate events happening in Ukraine. And what's that causing people to do is people are taking a bit of a wait and watch mode for the rest of Central and Eastern Europe, but definitely driving a lot more interest in Poland, Spain, Western Europe. Significant amount of activity and promise for Africa, right? And we see multiple geographies offer potential. So we're seeing a lot of interest in people trying to understand how they might be able to leverage Africa. Interestingly, despite all the challenges, India remains an area of interest. And in a lot of ways, there's a lot more growth activity that's planned, right? Especially for technology-oriented work. You know, Philippines, we've seen hold fairly steady, especially as it comes to voice work, but then people are also now trying to understand how might we reimagine, rethink how we embed Philippines in the services supply chain. So all in all, you know, there's some concern areas that are emerging in the world, which you can see as the red hotspots, primarily because of either macroeconomic issues, hyperinflation, or geopolitics. But for the most part, I'd say that where the industry is looking to get to is on this thesis of there's a lot more demand. To serve this demand in a high-risk environment, you need to diversify your portfolio. And we are quite excited because we believe that truly we're going to create global supply chains in talent, where people are going to stop thinking about a single hub, double hub strategy, but will need multiple global hubs over a period of time. With that, you know, happy to take questions at any point. You all can reach out to us. But Kerry, back to you.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Jimit. And yeah, completely agree. I think we are victims of our own success at the moment. We've responded so well to the pandemic and enabled so much digital transformation that the appetite now is huge for more and more of that.